Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk, take that leap of faith, stay involved, trust God, and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse, that God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You aren't here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going. 1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was publicly assassinated at the Utah Valley University during his Prove Me Wrong speaking tour. A speaking tour which was dedicated to debating college students on every single issue from free speech to trans ideology. The first emotion many of us felt after either hearing the news or seeing the video ourselves was complete shock and despair. Not only was Charlie's murder publicly witnessed by the world, but it is now being openly celebrated by left-wingers worldwide as vigils for Charlie are destroyed. The media works overtime to posthumously smear him, and liberals attack those holding signs in his honor. Charlie Kirk wanted civil discourse. He wanted debate, and he greeted everybody with a smile, even those that were viciously screaming in his face. And the left wing killed him for it. Charlie was our voice, and they took it. Charlie was our bridge, and they burned it. The right's natural response has been to publicly shame and call for the firing of every single left-winger who is now publicly celebrating Charlie's death. Now, all of a sudden, the left hates cancel culture, they suddenly care about free speech, and can't fathom that there are actual consequences to their actions. And by the way, my friends, this isn't cancel culture, this is accountability. Charlie was a mentor to me, and reporting on his death now seems surreal. My reporting wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Charlie Kirk. My voice wouldn't be as widespread if not for him. He united so many on the right and consistently reached out to so many on the left, and our country wouldn't be where it is today without him. He leaves behind his beautiful wife, Erica, and their 2 young kids. Earlier this week, she shared that she will continue Turning Point USA with the powerful phrase, "The left has no idea what they unleashed across the nation and the world." Today's show is in honor of Charlie, his legacy, the world that is mourning him, and also a hard look at the fight of good versus evil that became more visible than it's ever been in our country. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Rapid Fire. My name is Savannah Hernandez, and of course, today we are going to be focusing in on the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. And we're also going to be taking a very realistic look at the left wing's response to it. This has been such a heavy week for so many of us. And we're going to go over all of it. We're going to talk about, like I said, where we are as a nation. Because I think for the first time, a lot of people, especially those on the left, realize just how radicalized a huge portion of the country has become. Now, just to start off this show, there has been an update regarding the murderer of Charlie. This comes from Benny Johnson. Discord initially claimed that Charlie Kirk's assassin never used their platform to plan or promote violence. Judd Hoffman, Discord's VP of Trust and Safety, said they had found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. This morning, however, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino confirming that there was a Discord chat, in fact, with 20 plus members, and new reporting reveals that Tyler Robinson, the killer, sent a final message to the group admitting his guilt and stating that he was turning himself in. This information came directly from Discord and was shared with law enforcement. Why was Discord initially claiming that no violence was planned on their platform if that was not true. First thing out of the gate there, just some breaking news regarding this situation. I don't want to start the show off too heavy because I knew Charlie myself. I still work with Turning Point USA, of course. I work for the Frontlines faction of the company. And it has been such an honor to get to work for Charlie, to have gotten to see him at work. And I think that a lot of people think that TPUSA was just the college chapters, right? But we have high school chapters. We have curriculum for young kids. We have TPUSA Faith, where faith leaders across the nation are brought together. Charlie was also actively working with the administration. He single-handedly helped bridge the gap between RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, spurring the MAHA movement that so many of us have championed and backed today. Charlie was truly an American hero, and his legacy will never be forgotten. It's up to every single one of us now to continue his legacy. And it has been truly, truly horrific to watch a huge portion of the country openly celebrate and mock his death. A lot of people are asking, where do we go from here? And I'm asking myself that question too. Of course, there is going to be no replacement for Charlie Kirk as a collective. We all have to do our best to carry on his legacy and do what we can to honor him, to be the best people that we can be in honor of him. Like I said at the start of this show, he was all about civil discourse and debate, reaching across the aisle. But I think the shock and dismay to so many Americans, especially with the doubling down of mockery regarding Charlie's assassination on the left, there's so much shock on our end because it's horrific to admit and physically see the people that we are sharing a country with right now. Truly evil people who do not want to unite with us, therefore we cannot unite with them. Again, before we do get too heavy, there have been vigils across the nation celebrating Charlie's life. He had such a huge impact that you even had NFL teams having moments of silence for him yesterday. This is the Dallas Cowboys holding a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. They were not the only NFL team that did this. You have vigils across the nation from the West Coast to the East Coast. You have vigils worldwide. I'll actually play you guys a video here. This is from both the UK and South Korea this last weekend. So there's just a little bit of an idea of the impact that Charlie had. You have countries that you would never even expect that are honoring Charlie's legacy and Charlie's life. This was also a vigil at a Lake Havasu. It's such a beautiful clip. I wanted to play it for you guys as well. So many people across the nation are coming together to remember Charlie. You even had Coldplay's Chris Martin this last weekend send love to the Kirk family, send love to Erica after the assassination of Charlie. And last night there was a huge memorial in Washington, D.C. RFK Jr. took the stage stating, "I owe my unification with President Trump to Charlie Kirk." And so many people, not only in politics, but just in everyday America, have this exact same story. My own story with Charlie as well. This photo was taken last year at Mar-a-Lago. At the end of the year, Charlie holds this big dinner for his donors. And at the end of the year, he tells them about all of the work that he's done. And like I was saying as well, you really didn't understand how hard Charlie worked and how much he was accomplishing at such a young age. Turning Point wasn't just the college chapters, it was high school chapters, it was curriculum for young kids, it was Turning Point Faith, it was the contributor program. It was Charlie working in the administration to steer this country in the right direction. It was Charlie promoting the values of family, having children, completely destroying and debunking all of the lies and nonsense that we were living through. So at the end of the year, he would have this big dinner for donors and highlight all of the incredible work that Turning Point USA did. I saw him at this dinner, and I saw him before the dinner actually started in passing, and he ended up giving me a shout out during this dinner. And that's just who Charlie was. He was so accomplished and he did so much, but he was never bragging about himself. He was never talking about how hard he worked, the hours he put in, what he's had to sacrifice. It was always about uplifting other people around him. And he did that to the very end. He was such an incredible human being. And again, I've just been seeing a lot of old clips of Charlie resurface, and they've just been going viral as so many people for the first time are hearing Charlie Kirk's voice, are going to church for the first time, reading the Bible again for the first time, and praying for the first time after the horrific events of this last week. Charlie's legacy was so strong and so profound that even in his death, he's still at work. I saw this clip of the president talking about Charlie on Fox and Friends, and it's just the perfect encapsulation of who Charlie was and how loved he was. So I just want to play this for you guys here, and then we'll get into JD Vance's speech as well. He hosted Charlie Kirk's show today, and he actually gave a really incredible statement on where we are currently at as a country. So we'll play that in a second. But this was the president talking about Charlie this last weekend.
You know, Charlie would call me up. I'm president of the United States, and I get a call like a day before. Sir, could you come to Arizona tomorrow? I said, Charlie, I'm president. I can't just come. He said, it's so important. Could you play? And I'd usually try and get there.
So there we go. There's Charlie calling up the president like, hey, could you come over here? And the president would always come to our events. He would always show up. He would always be there. And that in itself was a really incredible thing to witness. Charlie was an OG of the MAGA movement and supporter of President Trump since before 2016. So it is truly incredible to see the impact that he had, not only on this country, but again, on modern day politics as well, and the profound impact that he had on the younger generation. One of the things that I keep hearing time and time again from so many Gen Zers is how Charlie never looked down on people for being young. He never looked down on somebody and said, you know what, you're kind of young. I think that your opinion's invalid. Oh, you're not really in politics. You're not from a prestigious university. So your opinion is disregarded and it doesn't matter. He was the complete opposite of that. He put his full trust and faith and hope in the younger generation, and he uplifted every single one of our voices. Here is, again, just some of the response to Charlie's death from TikTokers from Gen Z.
The more videos I see of Charlie, the more I realize he was basically a perfect example of what a young man should strive to be. And I think that's what they hate the most. He is someone who advocated everyone gets married young and has kids as soon as possible. He completely advocated for people to not participate in hookup culture. The last video I saw of him that inspired me to make this, he was saying, if you want to be the best version of yourself and you want to live the best life that you could possibly live, you can't do what everybody else does. You can't go to the bars every weekend, get blackout drunk every weekend, and hook up with a random stranger every weekend. That is so unfulfilling. And Charlie was literally a perfect representation, bro. He was a hard-working individual. He had a purpose that was bigger than himself. He fought for truth and he fought evil.
Amen. And this young Gen Z guy. I mean, he just perfectly encapsulates so well what Charlie was. And to be honest with you guys too, just after the events of this last week, I feel more inspired as well, just to be an even better person for Charlie. He had such a heart of gold. And I saw this post as well on X, and this user put it perfectly into words why Charlie's murder, why Charlie's death is hitting us all so hard. So I'm going to read it here for you guys, because I think a lot of us are struggling to make sense of our emotions. Why are we grieving? For some of us who, might not have ever met Charlie, why are we grieving so hard? Why does it feel like we lost a friend, like we lost a family member? And like I said at the beginning of the show, I truly do feel that Charlie was the voice for so many, and it was taken from us. This user states that the good versus evil spiritual war just undeniably spilled over into real life. This isn't a theory, it's high stakes reality. Charlie was killed for beliefs that every Bible-believing Christian holds, and it could have been any of us. Charlie was uniquely gifted and anointed. This is like losing one of the captains of your team. You knew you could win with him on the field. Now what? His murder was gruesome and public. This is degrading for someone who is an image bearer of God and widely loved. Death is humiliating for humans. Evildoers are delighting in evil. Progressive leftists and their demons are celebrating. This is offensive and wicked. We sympathize, of course, with his family. Young kids will grow up hearing about their father, but won't know him personally. Tragically heartbreaking. You feel like you knew him because you did in many ways. Many have listened to him talk for countless hours and have been impacted by his work and life. You will miss him. You will miss that. You will miss the videos. He represented the American dream. He was a self-made guy who built something big at a young age with little resources, and it changed the world. He was young, healthy, and strong, and his life was cut short. A reminder of how fragile every single one of our lives are, because we are not promised tomorrow. As I was reading through this list, the only thing I disagreed with was that death is humiliating. I think that death is something that happens to each and every single one of us. It is a natural part of life. And what I have found comfort in over this last week is knowing that God put every single one of us at this point in history, at this place in time, for a reason. And I had posted this video on my Instagram account, just trying to make sense of why Charlie Kirk. And I truly do feel like his one life saved millions of us. Those of us who might have been lukewarm Christians, those of us who may have never been to church before, those of us who were lukewarm politically and didn't truly understand where the country was at. Those of us who felt like we could put off our faith and going to church for a different time. Those of us who might have felt like good versus evil wasn't real. Charlie's death jolted all of us awake. And God did use it for good, because millions are running back to church. Millions are running back to prayer, back to the Spirit, and back to the Bible. And that in itself is the most powerful thing that could have happened. And that's exactly what Charlie wanted his legacy to be. And we should all strive for our legacies to be the same. By the way, if you went to church this last Sunday and your pastor did not mention Charlie's death, did not mention Charlie's name, go find a new church. Because your pastor didn't rise to the occasion. This was a Christian man who was killed for his beliefs, because every single thing that Charlie espoused was rooted in the Christian faith, was based in the Christian faith, was based in truth, was based on what every single Christian across the world believes in. Now, some people on the right are calling for us to unite. Not many. Actually, the majority are not. And this is a new place for America, right? This is a new place for us because, like I said, I think a lot of us were jolted awake for the first time at how truly evil the left wing is, how truly radical the trans movement and trans ideology is, how out of control Antifa is. I have been reporting on Antifa for years, as has Andy No. I have been personally beaten by them. I have friends who have been personally attacked and still are being attacked to this day. And the shooter, engraved on one of the weapons he used to kill Charlie was anti-fascist ideology. Just so ironic they call themselves anti-fascists when they are the true fascists among us. Not only does the DOJ need to completely eradicate Antifa as an organization and investigate every single person who has ever flown an Antifa flag, worn an Antifa emblem, not only does the DOJ need to make sure that every single person who has committed a criminal act, conspired to commit a criminal act, or was an accessory to a crime needs to be investigated and held responsible and jailed. Not only does the DOJ need to do that, but if the DOJ does not completely dismantle Antifa, we will have failed. Now, regarding where we are at politically, like I stated, the Vice President of the United States was hosting the Charlie Kirk show, and he put it best regarding where we are at right now. I wanted to make the title of this show, "We Cannot Unite with People Who Want Us Killed." I didn't want it to be that dark, but it's also true, right? And that's what Charlie stood for. He stood for truth, and the hard truth of where we are at right now is that we cannot unite with evil, and we cannot unite with the people who want us killed. I think that the Vice President articulated this the best. Here he was just a couple hours ago talking about the current point politics that we are at.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years.
So that was a little bit of what the Vice President said this morning. And of course, the left-wing media is going to be apoplectic about this. They're going to throw a fit. They're going to throw a tantrum. And they already are about the fact that right-wingers are done and they're getting people fired. Rightly so, by the way. Like I said, this isn't cancel culture. This is accountability. We'll be getting into that in a moment. But for any on the right who feel very jarred and unaware of where we go from here, one of the first hard truths that you need to digest and become very aware of is that there is no uniting with people who want you dead. No longer can we brush off and look the other way when the left wing threatens us, attacks us, and foments violence against us, because this has been happening for decades at this point. I've lived it. You've lived it. We've seen the cancellations that have happened because people even just supported the president. We've seen people's lives destroyed for not capitulating to a corrupt government, and the left wing beat people in the streets for refusing to bow down as well. And it needs to end. Michael Knowles put it best. It's a little bit long, but we're going to read the entire thing. In the wake of Charlie's assassination, many people are demanding that we redouble our devotion to the free marketplace of ideas. The call seems at first glance courageous and noble. In reality, it is reckless and impractical. We had an open marketplace of ideas. The left shot it up. Not only have extreme leftists committed violence in the marketplace of ideas, more scandalous still, mainstream left-wing voices have cheered and made light of the violence. There can be no open marketplace or ideas or anything else under such conditions. Marketplaces require rules, confidence, and common media of exchange. They require, in other words, order. Liberty requires order. One cannot be free and undisciplined, for instance, or free and ignorant. We know this philosophically, and we also know it intuitively. It's why we don't let toddlers vote. What we require now is the reassertion of order. We must insist upon the acceptance of basic truths and moral goods, not as the asymptomatic goal of endless debate, but as the axiomatic foundation without which debate cannot occur. We must foreclose certain antisocial behaviors and suicidal ideologies. We must, to borrow a phrase from Chesterton, stop the thought that stops thought. In practical terms, this means we must stigmatize certain evil ideas and behaviors, and we need to ostracize people who insist upon them. More practically, this means that people who persist in such disorder should lose their social standing, in certain cases, lose their jobs. There must be consequences. Michael Knowles is absolutely correct in this. And again, the right wing ensuring that everybody who is gleefully cheering on the brutal public assassination of a father, the right wing holding these people accountable is the first step back to decency in this country. There was a period of time when in civil society, you did not dance on the grave of the dead. You didn't cheer on a brutal public assassination that was witnessed by millions. The left wing has committed acts of violence against the right wing for decades with zero consequences. We're not doing that anymore. We have to, like Michael Knowles just said, reassert order. And in what he's writing as well, because we are going to be talking about, of course, Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian girl who was brutally murdered on a train in North Carolina. I have been thinking about and also going over the text of our founding fathers myself. And the main conclusion that I've come to is the America that the Constitution was written for no longer exists. I tweeted this out last week after watching the video of Irina. And what Michael Knowles is saying here is essentially the same exact thing. The Constitution was written for a moral and just people. We are not that anymore. The Constitution was written for people who aligned with and shared the same culture as the Americans who founded this country. We don't have that anymore. We need to bring back basic morals, basic values, basic humanity and decency. And the left wing for far too long has been allowed to dehumanize us, attack us, threaten us, punch us in the face for wearing a MAGA hat, tell us that we deserve to have our children taken from us because we have the audacity to want bodily autonomy, or for our children not to be indoctrinated with trans ideology and forced to learn about the sexual preferences of men. Enough is enough. We need to bring back decency and order to our society. Because this week, more than anything, has exposed how out of control the radical left wing has gotten. And this is not a demonization of the entire left wing, because I guarantee you that left wingers this week, a lot of them woke up and said, wow, my side is extremely violent. And this is not what I signed up for. And a lot of them were already making videos stating that exact same thing. The trans ideology, the Antifa ideology specifically, extremely violent. Extremely violent. If you have reported on Antifa or trans people, chances are you have been swatted, you have been doxxed, you have been attacked. They beat Andy Ngo back in 2019 so badly that his brain bled, and for some reason the DOJ has not deemed them a domestic terrorist organization. These people are like the freaking Taliban. They'll kill you. They'll kill you, and they have killed people for thinking the wrong thing. Now, how do we fix this? Well, number one, enough with the unity talk. We're not doing that anymore. We do not need unity. We need decency, morality, and values. We need law and order. We need people held accountable. We need the right wing to stop being dehumanized by the entire media, the entertainment industry, our politicians, and an entire faction of the United States of America. Let's talk about the media here for a second. This young girl, her video has been going viral. I don't know her name off the top of my head. My apologies, but we're going to play her video here because she is calling for the Smith-Mundt Act to be revoked and replaced with the Charlie Kirk Act. She's going to explain it for us here. Again, this video is kind of long, but We need to archive this point in American history, not only to understand where we're at, but also how we fix it. She offers a very, very good solution.
President Trump, as a supporter who voted for you 3 times, I am hoping and praying that you will revisit what Barack Obama and Joe Biden got rid of back in 2013, which is the Smith-Mundt Act, which held news corporations accountable for lying to the American people and spreading propaganda instead of truth. I think instead of bringing it back as a Smith-Mundt Act, you name it the Charlie Kirk Act, you make it a law, and you make it damn near impossible for these people to continue to lie to the American public, which has brought chaos, hatred, division, and anarchy all across this country. Fines out the ass, which will damn near bankrupt their companies should they lie to the American people ever again. They can have their opinions, that's fine. They need to state that it is their opinion and that it is not a fact. Because of their constant lies, a man lost his life over it. Because of the constant hateful rhetoric of calling him a fascist and a Nazi and a white supremacist and a bigot, the same thing that they called you, this man is dead. I think this would be a great legacy for him to have a law named after him to force journalists to finally start telling the truth and having the integrity that they have lacked for over a decade. I hope that this gets to you. I hope that you think about it and that you pass it into law. Because we are on a dangerous path right now with the constant lies and the propaganda. And that doesn't end just at news journalists. It needs to go to content creators who consistently spread lies and propaganda and half-truths across the internet. This needs to end. And people need to start being held accountable for baseless claims over absolute abysmal things. It needs to end. So please, if you have it in your heart to have the time to do this, get this in front of Congress, get this passed as a law, and start holding these news corporations, be they right, left, or center, accountable for their behavior.
Ellie Mae is the name of this articulate young girl. And she's a perfect example of why Charlie Kirk invested in the youth. Because there is a lot of great ideas within our youth. There is a lot of fire. There is a lot of life left in our youth, and we are ready to continue to push forward his legacy and actually fix this country. So number 1, no more unity talk. Number 2, we need to hold every single person accountable, including the media, by passing acts just like this one. And number 3, we need to deem Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, and we need to completely eradicate trans ideology from our entire country. It needs to be gone. It is extremely violent. We have had multiple Christian schools targeted, children violently murdered at the hands of this ideology, journalists beaten within an inch of their life by Antifa. The DOJ has the power to act. Congress has the power to act, and I hope they do that. Many Americans calling for the Charlie Kirk Act and the Irina Zarutska Act. Charlie Kirk Act to again end the government use of the media to spread propaganda. The Irina Zarutska Act to hold judges accountable for releasing criminals that end up terrorizing society. If you guys haven't seen my videos, I've done a couple of them now about the judges out of Harris County here in Texas. Harris County, highest crime rate in all of Texas. It's up in Houston. Lori Chambers Gray, Hillary Unger, 2 of those district court judges who have a pattern of releasing defendants, aka criminals, who then go on to commit murder. And I'm not talking about, oh no, we accidentally released one guy who did that. I'm talking about a pattern of 8 to 10 people who were released time and time and time and time again. And instead of keeping these people in jail, holding them accountable, they go on to commit the murder of innocent Americans and innocent people because these judges refuse to do their job. Another way that Americans can be made safe. Now we're going to focus in on the left wing now. Like I said, I like to use my show as an archive for this moment in American history, what we are all living through, what's going on. So that way, 10 years from now, when the left wing tries to pretend that they were not dancing on the grave of Charlie Kirk and wishing death upon his family and his mourning widow, that we can say, here is the proof. This is how you acted. And this is why we are calling for our country to be restored, sanity to be restored, humanity to be restored. Because this is how you act. The New York Times, let's start off with them. This was a correction that they made on September 11th, 2025, a day after Charlie's death. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. He was actually quoting a statement from a post on social media and then went on to critique it. It was not his statement. That's the New York Times reporting on a father who was just brutally murdered in front of his family. The media as well has been trying to spin this as right-wing terrorism somehow by saying that a conservative shot Charlie Kirk, murdered Charlie Kirk, and the media is working their hardest to try to spin this narrative. From Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk's assassin had a trans boyfriend called Charlie a fascist, confirmed leftist by friends and family, confirmed leftist by top officials on the record, including the governor, killed one of the most iconic conservatives in the country, and yet leftists are still claiming that this terrorist was right-wing, that he was conservative. He lived with a trans roommate, by the way, and again was on this trans Discord, where 20 plus other individuals who were part of this chat had prior knowledge of his plan to assassinate Charlie. Every single one of them needs to be publicly named and held accountable. From Brooke Singman of Fox News, exclusive Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources tell me. The individual, who is a male transitioning to female, is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me the FBI had texts and other communications between Robinson and the individual that helped FBI authorities solidify that Robinson was indeed the shooter. And Charlie was shot answering a question about transgender mass shooters in the United States of America. Now, as difficult as it is for us to look at the left wing's response to this, I do think that it's extremely necessary. Because the reason why you have radicalized left-wing terrorists that felt emboldened to kill Charlie is because of other left-wingers, is because of the media, because of the ramped up rhetoric, because of the calls for violence, the demonization of all of us. I tweeted this out after Charlie's death, that the right has been tolerant for far too long. We have been so tolerant, and we're not going to be tolerant anymore. And I don't mean that in a violent way. I mean that in the right wing is now going to get people fired for dancing on Charlie's grave type of way. Let me see if I can find this tweet here, because I do feel that this is, again, what a lot of people have woken up to this week. Despite what the left thinks, the right has been extremely tolerant these last 10 years, and it's the right that has actually lived through the reality the left thinks they have. We've endured imprisonment, censorship, attacks, threats, and Trump supporters have been killed. We've been put on no-fly lists, debanked, and our kids have been targeted, indoctrinated, and smeared by the media. And now one of our brightest stars has been assassinated. The left took advantage of the tolerance of the right wing, and now they think it's funny to go to a vigil for Charlie Kirk and dance on his grave. That happened the day he was shot, by the way. In Idaho, a leftist thought it was funny to go and ride through a vigil for Charlie, screaming F Charlie Kirk. I ended that by saying pray for our country, because I fear where we go next, because it is the left that is out for blood. And at this point, it is the right that is going to have to start standing up and defending itself. Now, Crystal Ball, prominent left-wing commentator, posted this yesterday. The policing of everyone's thoughts and emotion around Charlie Kirk's death is wild. Cancel culture on steroids, backed by the full force of the government. My response, cancel culture was the left wing digging up a 10-year-old tweet and ruining somebody's life over it. Stop pretending that leftists dancing on Charlie's grave and calling for the death of his family is the same thing, you absolute demon. Let's go ahead and take a peek at what Crystal's referencing here, by the way. The right wing is policing everybody's thoughts and emotions. We're canceling people for no reason. Let's see what people are getting canceled over. Prominent left-winger here. In America, if you don't mourn the 21st century Hitler Youth Program director, you get fired from your job. Okay, so this is the type of rhetoric that is being pushed out now. Not only is the media defaming Charlie Kirk by attributing false quotes to him, as we saw in the New York Times, but you also have prominent left-wing influencers now calling all of us a part of Turning Point USA, anybody who held Charlie Kirk's belief, a part of the Hitler Youth. Okay, that's what Crystal Ball is defending. What else is Crystal defending? Breaking, nurse at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta said, F his kids, F his ancestors, especially the witch who birthed him. She's been fired from her job. Let's keep going, Crystal, because maybe we can find a left-winger who was fired from their job without cause, without reason. What else is going on with the left wing here? Okay. Yesterday, outside of Turning Point USA headquarters, where a vigil for Charlie Kirk was set up, a man was arrested for vandalizing Charlie Kirk's memorial. 19-year-old kid who was wearing the same exact shirt that Charlie's assassin wore. Nick goes on to say that the FBI should be tracking each and every single person who bought that shirt. Amen. They absolutely should. Goes and stomps on Charlie's vigil. That's the left wing. And it's not just outside of the Turning Point headquarters that this is happening. An idea of what just happened to a family outside of Colorado who put up a vigil for Charlie on their private fence, by the way.
So Michael and his family created a memorial along their fence to honor the slain CEO of Turning Point USA. But late Saturday night, vandals lit the display on fire.
When they burnt that fence, that fire could have went into that house and it could have really harmed somebody.
It's the rhetoric. It's what people are being fed. There's so much hate in this world, and we need to stop.
The vandals also broke the back window of the family's SUV.
So there you go. You put up a vigil on your own home for Charlie Kirk, and the left wing is going to go burn it down and smash your vehicle. They don't care as well if they potentially light your house on fire. They want you dead either way. And they've made it very, very clear this week. And it isn't just in the United States that this is happening. In Vienna, a memorial for Charlie Kirk was also destroyed. And you would think that in red states, maybe we'd have a little bit more respect here for Charlie Kirk. No. To be quite honest with you, I think that the universities here in Texas specifically are some of the most radical. Now, this is a student who was holding up an RIP Charlie Kirk sign. And this radical leftist came up to him and taunted him for an entire minute. I mean, this lasted for multiple minutes. She ended up being arrested. But this is just 10 seconds of her harassing this guy holding up a sign that read, RIP Charlie Kirk.
Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. He got shot in the head. Fuck your homie dead.
That has been the left wing's response. By the way, she has since been expelled. That happened at Texas Tech University. And it isn't just the radical left wing that's been mobilized either, that is cheering, clapping, celebrating a brutal public assassination. It's also our politicians. Ilhan Omar shared a video saying that Charlie Kirk was a reprehensible human being, a stochastic terrorist. With his last dying words, he was spewing racist dog whistles. Charlie Kirk was Dr. Frankenstein, and his monster shot him through the neck. Ilhan Omar shared that video. In the wake of a politically motivated assassination, a left-wing politician shared a video promoting this ideology that Charlie deserved it. And it's also people that are closest to the president that are fomenting this exact same hate. A Secret Service agent last week was mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk, stating, "If you are mourning this guy, delete me. He spewed hate and racism on his show, especially when we should be mourning the innocent children killed in Colorado." That was a current Secret Service agent. Was a current Secret Service agent. He has since been fired. And before you say, Sav, this is the cancel culture of the left wing. Why is this important? Because this is somebody that's tasked with saving the president's life if need be. This is somebody who is tasked with protecting the life of the president of the United States. And he's over here saying, why are you mourning Charlie Kirk? He was a racist. He doesn't deserve it. Secret Service. It's our media. It's the left wing, the younger generation, all of them actually. Doesn't matter what age they are. The radical left wing is celebrating. Our media, our politicians. It's just sick. It's just truly sick. And it continues from the New York Post. Teacher allegedly showed Charlie Kirk assassination video to 10 and 11-year-olds, told students that he deserved to be killed. A public school teacher has been suspended after allegedly showing a video of Charlie Kirk's assassination to students as young as 10 in his class. This happened in Canada. The teacher suggested that Kirk deserved to be killed and gave the young students a speech about anti-fascism and transgender issues. Several students went home to complain to their parents, traumatized at witnessing an on-camera death. And by the way, the people that have been getting fired, you have an ex-user who created a spreadsheet of who these people were, what occupations they held. A huge portion of them, the largest portion of them, teachers and professors. Yes, the same people tasked with teaching our children. Celebrating the brutal death of Charlie. Many of them on the list as well, healthcare workers, nurses. And why should that scare you? Because what happens if your nurse sees you wearing a shirt with the American flag on it that says R.I.P. Charlie and says, I'm not going to save that person because I don't like them for their political views and I think that they should die. That's where the country's at right now, and that's why these firings are necessary and important. Now, going back to Crystal Ball, because for some reason she thinks that this is cancel culture. What are you defending, Crystal? Let's keep going here. What are you defending, Crystal Ball? Let's take a peek at what you're defending.
I want to dedicate this next one to an absolute piece of shit of a human being. The pronouns was, were. Because if you chat shit, you will get banned. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, you piece of shit.
Now, this is musician Bob Vylan. Multiple venues have already canceled his shows, and also the State Department stated that they are going to be blocking and revoking his visa and the visa of any foreigner who celebrated the killing of Charlie Kirk. This is base level what we should be doing. Good. That's what Crystal Ball promotes and is upset about, by the way. Now, apparently in California, you had the Republican Party, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this county name, Stanislaus County. They were holding a vigil for Charlie Kirk, and they had extended an invitation to the Democratic faction of their party. And they said, we respectfully decline participation because we cannot in good conscience attend an event that centers on Charlie Kirk, given his associations with fascist ideology. We do not wish to participate in honoring him. They then try to say that they don't believe in political violence, but yeah, we're not going to honor the life of a father. And again, that's what I'm talking about here when I say that the left wing has become so far removed from their humanity that they can't even stop to honor the life of a murdered American. That is how divided and out of control modern day American politics is. They don't view you as a human being. They don't care that you had a family. They don't care about your name. They don't care about your legacy. They don't care about your grief or the grief of your family and friends. They hate you and they'll spit on your grave, and they have been all week. And you cannot unite with people like that. And again, we tried. We wanted to unite with the other half of the United States of America. To the rational people who realize that murder is wrong, we still do. But the radical left-wing version of this country that continues to push this type of rhetoric that we all deserve to die because we're the Hitler Youth, shame on you, and I hope you get shamed out of civil society and lose your job. Learn a hard lesson. And to the right wing who's calling for unity, again, you cannot unite with people who want you dead and who don't view you as a human being. Somebody had posted this. The Republicans need to calm down starter pack. It's a photo of President Trump immediately after being shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's Daniel Penny with his hands cuffed behind his back, being dragged into court for protecting innocent Americans from an erratic criminal on the subway. It's the BLM riots. One of the most jarring pictures out of the summer of 2020 in which you had rioters celebrating amongst the flames of the burned down businesses that they were destroying. It's Irina Zarutska looking up at her killer after he had just slashed her throat so brutally and violently. And it's Charlie Kirk. Now, last week as well, just to touch on Irina for a second, I don't know about you guys, but I was horrified watching that video of her getting attacked on that train. And for the first time, I felt real fear. For the first time, I felt like the American streets are not safe. For the first time, I realized that if you get on a bus, you're potentially sacrificing your life. For the first time, I felt real fear. Irina's video had come out earlier last week, and then Charlie died a couple days later. And amidst the fear that many Americans were feeling because of the criminality that is allowed to run rampant on our city streets, the failed leadership, the failed judges, the lack of a justice system, the complete dehumanization of the right wing, or just any normal common sense person who holds basic American views like, hey, I like my country. Amidst all of that, the media decided to triple down on Charlie's death from the nation. Charlie Kirk was an unrepentant racist, transphobe, homophobe, and misogynist who often wrapped his bigotry in Bible verses because there was no other way to pretend that it was morally correct. It has 351,000 views. Likes. It has 28 million views. It has 351,000 likes on X. 350,000 people, both in this nation and around the world, think that Charlie and anybody who holds his views are all of the above. They are demonizing the Christian faith, by extension of demonizing Charlie's death, because everything Charlie spoke was the truth, and everything Charlie spoke about was rooted in the Bible and Christian faith. Everything they targeted and killed Charlie for, they will target and kill us for if they had the chance. And that is a horrifying thing to discover. It's horrifying to watch a huge portion of the nation celebrate the death of Charlie, because we all know deep down that they would be celebrating and dancing on our graves too. And it's horrific, and it's such a disheartening feeling to be confronted with this, with so much evil. By the way, to the nation, this is the homophobic, misogynist, racist in question. Let's listen.
And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that. That's so cute. It's honestly the most joyful thing. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences. I've been very, very blessed. Very lucky, you could say, but very blessed is the word I would use. And the greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That's all, that pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
The misogynist in question, folks, that was Charlie. Heart of gold, honestly. By the way, immediately after Charlie's death, Blue Sky, which is the left-wing equivalent of Twitter, multiple users took to the app to ask for the next person to be targeted, including J.K. Rowling, Matt Walsh, President Donald Trump, Ben Shapiro, Libs of TikTok, Elon Musk, and Andy Ngo. This is where we're at. And you even had, I don't even want to show that on screen. I hate that so much. You had left-wingers that were making political cartoons of Charlie getting shot and posting it immediately after his death. Xi Van Fleet, I had the honor of interviewing her. She's a survivor of communist China, said, "Who launched Mao's bloody cultural revolution? Radicalized students. It was the Red Guards. They quickly went from justifying violence to committing murder, leaving up to 20 million dead, including many of their own. Who radicalized them? The communist education system did. In America, it's woke Marxist professors. Our campuses have become hotbeds of anti-American radicalism. We must carry on Charlie's legacy and reclaim our universities, because if we lose them, we lose America." She would know exactly what the radicalization of the youth for murder looks like, because she lived through it. Now, there's been a lot of political cartoons going around as well regarding the events of the last week. I think this one was the most jarring to me, because you have, of course, the conservative at the Let's Talk About It booth, the angry trans person with the gun, and then the media patting him on the back saying, "It's not your fault, he made you angry." And this is where our country is at now. The media at a very base level cannot even denounce violence in its most simple form. So before we end the show, again, I kind of want to touch on Irina Zarutska, because what the media is doing with Charlie's death, they were doing with her death as well. They actually were completely silent on her murder. The video out of this was so horrific and jarring. This poor young girl, 23 years old, throat slit on the train as she sat there minding her own business. And in her final moments, she curled up crying and alone, and nobody on that train comforted her, not one person. She bled out on the train alone. And if that response and the response to Charlie's death is not enough of a wake-up call to show how diseased American culture has become, then I don't know what is. If Congress does not act and get the media under control, like I said, via this potential Charlie Kirk Act, if the DOJ does not immediately deem Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, if every single person involved with the killing of Charlie Kirk is not named and shamed, if the judge who was responsible for releasing Irina Zarutska's killer is not held accountable, we will have failed as a nation, and we will fail as a nation. We will continue to stay a failed state. I hate saying that the United States, as it stands now, is a failed nation, but we don't have a justice system. We have a huge portion of not only the United States, but of political America, our government, that hates us so much that they are willing to dance on our graves. We have no unity anymore, and it's not because of the right wing, it's because of the left wing. The left wing doesn't want unity. The left wing has been calling for violence. The left wing has been attacking us. The left wing has been killing us. The left wing has been lying about us. The left wing is the problem. And it is radical left-wing ideology that needs to be completely dismantled if we are going to survive as a nation. And it is this type of behavior, this celebration of murder, that needs to be completely shamed out of society if we are going to survive as a nation. President Trump said it best as well. What needs to happen to get crime in Democrat cities under control? Of course, the media was going crazy about this, and they were horrified that he stated this, but this is what needs to happen. A hard look at where we are as a nation, and a very strong and concerted effort to end crime.
She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests. We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand.
So there was the president discussing what needs to happen nationwide. By the way, from the Daily Caller, since August 7th, Trump's D.C. crackdown, let's not forget that he unleashed a National Guard to help keep the city streets of D.C. safe. Since that time frame, over 2,000 arrests have been made. 20 known gang members were arrested, 7 missing children found. 57 arrests were made, 14 of which were illegal aliens. This was the night of September 8th. Some of the arrests included somebody arrested on a warrant for assault with intent to kill, another arrested on warrant for armed carjacking, another arrested on warrant for simple assault and the destruction of property, another arrested for possession of a controlled substance and second-degree theft, another arrested for possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute. These were the people who were walking around D.C. because district court judges refuse to hold people accountable. Because judges across this nation have completely shirked their duty and refused to uphold law and order. And American people are suffering because of it every single day. From Irina Zarutska to Charlie Kirk to you and I. Now, again, I don't want to end the show on just a negative note. Charlie's life and legacy was incredible. And like I said, one of my takeaways from this week, just on a personal level, is to be more bold and open about my own faith. For so long, I had the mentality that until I was a good enough Christian to proclaim my faith, I didn't really want to talk about it because I have failed time and time again. But that's not what Charlie would have wanted. Charlie wanted us to be bold and courageous. He wanted us to be truthful. He wanted us to be unafraid. He wanted us to openly proclaim Christ every single day of our lives. He wanted us to be the salt and light of the earth. And I challenge every single one of you who feels downtrodden, who feels despair, who feels afraid, to be courageous and to work every single day of your life from this moment forward to be the best person that you can possibly be for Charlie, who modeled Christ so well. For me personally, Charlie was a great person to look up to because what I struggle with in my own faith is not having God physically here with us, right? I wouldn't say it's a faith thing. I don't struggle with my faith, but I just sometimes wish that God was physically here for me to speak to ask direction to, and just like to get that immediate response. And Charlie Kirk was that for a lot of us. He was somebody who articulated so well how to live the core tenets of the Bible, how to be a good steward, how to be a happy warrior, how to be a good disciple of Christ. We lost somebody very, very important, but that just means that it's up to us to continue his legacy, to continue to be the best people that we can possibly be, and to make sure that we make this country a better place, because nobody else is going to do it for us. And to leave you guys on a positive note, a huge rally happened in the UK. I was actually in London when I first heard the news. We booked flights immediately back home, but I was in London to go cover Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally. He said up to 3 million people were in attendance. And to be quite honest with you, I have never seen this many people at an event before. The visuals were absolutely insane. 3 million English took to the streets to push back against the immigration that is destroying their nation, destroying their culture, to push back against the attack on their freedom of speech, and to stand up for Charlie Kirk. And it isn't just in the UK that's happening. You also have rallies that are happening in Japan as well. Thousands have gathered in Tokyo this last weekend in a massive protest calling for an end to immigration and corruption. In Japan, protesters avoid blocking roads So they formed a thinly stretched line of people extending for kilometers rather than one dense crowd. The UK is waking up. Japan is waking up. Australia had huge protests. Almost every single nation had a vigil for Charlie Kirk. So I know things seem difficult, but if anything, each and every single one of us should just be inspired to be that much better, to be that much stronger, to be that much more loving, but also that much more aware of where our country is currently at so we can fix it. I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite videos to come out of all of the Charlie clips that were going around. This is him talking about taking time for his family, taking time for real life, to enjoy real life, to enjoy the blessings that God had given to him. And I hope that each and every single one of us can take something from this.
Turn your phone off for one day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. So every Friday night, I take a Jewish Sabbath, turn off my phone, Friday night to Saturday night. The world cannot reach me, and I get nothing from the world. It will bless you infinitely. And I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up.
When he turns his phone off and it goes in that drawer, he's all on for the family. There is no distractions, and he finally gets to reset his brain. He finally gets to breathe. And as a wife, there is nothing more precious than my husband's sanity when it comes to everything that he's dealing with in his world. So I have seen it change him and impact our family in one of the most beautiful ways.
And it's made our family much tighter knit. And it says very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day you shall rest. It was important enough that God put it as one of the 10 commandments, and God rested after creation. Go back to God's natural rhythm. That is a day to go be with God and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness, noise of this world.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Rapid Fire. My name is Savannah Hernandez, and I appreciate each and every single one of you guys being here. I'll see you guys next time. If you like the show, please go leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you as well to my subscribers for always supporting the show, and of course, to everybody on YouTube and on X that's watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. God bless.